Hi, everybody. It's so nice to have everybody here. My name is Eliza Demarest, and I live in Aspen, Colorado. And whether I know you personally or not, oh yeah, we have somebody from Canada too. That's so exciting. Hi, Melanie. It's really nice to have you all here. I'm super honored to hold space in this way and for all of you to just be here and be open to the teachings that I've integrated and taught in the last couple of years, but mostly like integrated into my life in the past 10 years. I've been on a pretty, I don't want to say intense, but pretty deep healing journey in the past 10 years. And so it really is an honor to be able to now offer these teachings and tools and practices to other people, because my main goal is to help people feel better, right? We live in a world that can be pretty chaotic, no matter like whatever the state of 2020, whatever it was supposed to be, like even before 2020, right? Like there's always going to be stuff that happens. Life is emotional roller coaster. It has its ups and downs. Like that is a normal part of life. And so I'm here to really support people in feeling just more relaxed and more connected, more grounded, balanced, present, all of these wonderful aspects about life that I don't want you to just wait until like shit hits the fan for you to integrate this stuff into your life. So when that does happen, you feel, I like to think of myself like a warrior, right? I'm like, that's why I have this coat on, you know, you're like putting your warrior jacket on and you're like going out into the world and you feel like you have the tools and the practices to like be your own medicine. Like, yes, I'm a spiritual coach and I love holding space for people, but what my goal is to remind you that you are your own healer, right? You are your own teacher. You can learn so much from just experience and how you integrate things into your life and self-exploration, self-discovery, all of those things. So to let you kind of know what the next hour, how it's going to go down is I have a little bit of a PowerPoint presentation just so I can stay on track. But I do really like to have this be interactive. So we'll go through the presentation. I'll hit on some really important points. And towards the end, I'm going to share with you some pretty like deep and powerful, potent embodiment practices that I use in my daily life and have for a really long time that have totally transformed me and are really, really useful for just to help you feel more grounded and like a holistic point of well-being, right? So you want to stay until the end because that is when I'm going to share them. And of course, I'll sprinkle stuff throughout this class, but I'm also here to share a really exciting new offering that I have as well. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely stay until the end. That's when all the goodies will come to life. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to share my screen. And I do want this, again, like how I got into this work is actually from teaching yoga. And so I am somebody that really thrives off of like face-to-face interactions and having people like kind of think about, I like to use the live music metaphor. Like if you connect with music and if you don't, it's okay too. But just like, I'm sure everyone at some point has been to live music, and when you can really feel like the essence of that vibration moving through you, like that is what I really love to do. And yes, we're on Zoom and that is a powerful tool, but I want you to imagine like we're in a big room together, supporting each other, laughing together, smiling, crying, whatever needs to come up, like let it go. This is a safe space. And if you have any questions, like type them in the chat box. I'll probably leave it closed just while I'm talking so I don't get distracted. But then I'll leave some space at the end for some Q&A so we can also interact and I can answer any questions you have. And if I look down, it's just because I have some notes and I want to stay on track. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to minimize you guys so I can stay focused. All right, so reclaiming your energy. That's what this is all about. It's about calling your energy back to yourself. We'll talk about a lot of things that has to do with this. Maybe some of that are familiar to you, maybe some that are different, but let's go ahead and just get started and dive in. So I'm going to start with this, and I'm going to read it to you, even though you can see it on the screen, and just kind of share like what's on my heart when I read this. This is off of Instagram. If any of you follow that wonderful, like I think it's called Moon Memes, that is where I got this. I did not write this, but I'm going to read it. So from the bottom of my heart, I'm grateful for these first 8 months of 2020. The challenges they've presented and obstacles that this year placed in my life and in the lives of others is beyond shocking. But as I am walking down this path, I am realizing that this is what so many of us have been waiting for. No paradise is possible without dark nights of the soul. And as we walk through this together, we are individually and collectively purging and healing our emotional bodies. We are coming to the roots of angelic humanity, and we are coming back to the infinite knowing that's within all of us. I believe that when the dark night is over and when we all emerge on the other side, we are going to be blessed getting to know each other under different circumstances, where we all have equal distribution of resources, power, and we all live in tune and harmony with Mother Earth. Couldn't have said it better myself. So if that resonates with you, say yes in the chat, or hell yes, fuck yes, whatever you want to say. I do cuss, so sorry if that offends anybody, but my intention is just to always be the real me. So when I first read this, I want to be sensitive about the fact that, like, 2020 has brought up a lot for people, right? It has been really intense. And I talk about this a lot in my stories because it's real. And I know that I am in a privileged place. And I'm guessing if you're watching this, you're most likely in that space too. And so what I ask you to do and encourage you to do is start to really use that privilege for good and for in ways of service. I don't know about you, but like I woke up a lot this year in ways that I didn't even know that I had the capacity for. It's things that I was aware of, but honestly was probably very asleep to. So I see this as an opportunity to use my advantage of the space, the time, the energy, the privilege that I have to be able to step into the world and give in my unique way, which is what I'm going to talk about today, is inspiring you to do that at the same time as taking care of yourself, so you're not just going out there and like spitting fire from an empty, exhausted, burnt out cup. Not that that can't be used as fuel, but I'll go into that a little bit later. So I first want to talk a little bit about the different types of stress. And the reason why I'm bringing this up, and you can read it yourself, I'm not going to go through each one of them, but if you look at this list, like this is the essence of 2020, right? Like this is a lot of different types of stress that I feel like everyone in one shape or form, and I'm sure people in different ways and different capacities, has felt this year, which is really intense, right? And not to say that, like, you know, stress isn't always like the most negative thing. Hold on, I'm gonna mute someone. I feel like I can. If you're coming in, I'm gonna mute you, or go ahead and mute yourself. Sorry guys, I just got a little distracted. We'll go back. Oh. Sorry. Hold on one second. I'm a human, right? We do things imperfectly. It's all good. Okay, so as you can see, like this is a lot of stuff that everyone in one shape or form has been really stressed out about. It's really real things that are happening. And so a lot of times our system and our bodies are really resilient, right? They can handle short spurts of stress. But when we go into those like really prolonged periods of stress and perpetuating fear and anything that holds this like really intense density in your body is not very resilient for that. That is when disease and illness and things like that can manifest into your life. And I want to talk about for a second, like really honoring what's going on in the world and stress and emotions, because you also want to honor where you're at. Like the things that have been happening in the world, COVID, police brutality, the fires, like death, all of it is really sad and it's confusing and it makes me angry. It makes me frustrated and like feel super low. Don't ignore that. Like that's a part of being human. It's okay to feel those things. It's very normal to feel those things actually, right? If you didn't, there's probably some sort of numbness that's happening that I would invite you to listen to, right? It's a normal part to like feel fear and tears and sadness and darkness and shadows. And what my role is and my intention is to really, really teach people how to alchemize that stuff and hold space for it in a way that is healing and transformative and deep, so you can come on the other side of it and feel in your purpose and inspired and empowered. Okay, so the other thing I want to talk about real quick is fear, because fear can also be used as fuel, right? I want you to think about, like, we'll use the fires for example, because that's currently happening in California and across the West Coast, and other things that are happening in the world, but I'm just going to use that as an example. Think about the firefighters. that are going to fight those fires. Like they're doing that out of survival mode, right? They're doing it out of fear of what's going to happen if they don't do that. Like they're using fear to fuel them, you know, they're in an act of service. They're like, that is what is waking them up every day and like having them work in an insane amount of hours. Once those things are over, like I'm sure when you look at firefighters, like I don't know if any of you have family that do that or friends, but I do. And my sister has been in Santa Cruz doing some stuff down there. And I think of them and I'm like, wow, these are some really insane, courageous and brave humans. But I guarantee you that those people, the firefighters that are doing that, are not like going into that fire being like, wow, I am so brave. I'm going to fight this fire. Like they're fueled by fear and being really scared for what would happen if they're not going to go put the fires out, right, and manage them. So fear can also be used as fuel, and usually like bravery and seeing this act of courage and things like that, like comes kind of in the aftermath of it, right, of looking back and being like, yeah, like I am doing something really brave and it's helping other people. It's also helping me grow and expand. And so I don't always want to say that like fear is the most negative thing. I think if we can become, you know, there's always two sides to the coin, but it's like if you can become friends with it and see it coming up in your life and see if it's like being used for something good or something non-productive, like that awareness is really important. Right? So we'll continue moving on. And this is like some kind of yogi stuff, right? Like I'm really passionate about, I'm a yoga teacher and a meditation teacher. And so a lot of like what I go through with my students is talking about sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems, right? And maybe you're familiar with this and maybe not. And I don't mean this to be like a lecture that you're sitting in, like you're in college or anything, but I want to go through kind of a different way to look at these things because I'm going to talk about boundaries, right? Like calling your energy back and reclaiming your energy, connecting back to yourself has so much to do with boundaries in the way of self-respect. That is what boundaries mean to me. So I'm going to use myself as an example. In 2020, like March, I guess, hit and all this stuff started happening. You better believe I was in like sympathetic nervous system. If anyone can agree, say yes. Like fear, like such frantic energy, like was like cleansing everything so much that it was unhealthy, right? Like super stressed out, anticipation, uncertainty. Like I'm really grateful that I got myself into a position where I'm self-employed, but I was a server for a really long time. And you better believe I would have lost my job. So I understand what that feels like in a way that like, you know, just really feeling for people. Like my heart goes out to people that affected, because that is really real, like basic needs type of stuff that was affected and strips you up, uproots you from you feeling grounded in your soul and as a human, right? So it's okay that those things happen. What comes from this is awareness, right? So I was aware that those things were happening, and what I needed to do, like I was exposing myself to like, I don't know if anyone can relate, but like so much media all the time, like whether it was social media or something on Netflix or something on the news or conversations and all of that, that was uprooting me from my truth. And so therefore I didn't feel very proactive or productive in how I wanted to contribute to the cause, right? How I wanted to help even myself, so therefore I can help other people. I couldn't feel that. I was so stressed out that I wasn't taking care of myself, and so I was uprooted from that. And that's okay that we find ourselves in those areas, but I see it as an invitation to put yourself back in the rooted seat, right? So by doing that, and it's not self-centered, it's not from a self-absorbed place, that is you taking care of yourself. And if you have the time and the energy and the space, do it for you, but you're also doing it for the world, right? By you being a more grounded and centered person, you better believe that that is going to be the most productive thing for the world and take you right out of feeling really paralyzed by fear. So in looking at this list, like, and these are some you can kind of read of, you know, things that I suggest for if you want to shift more into like the rest and relaxation, because when you really allow your system to rest, I promise that you are more serving to everything in the world. And again, if you have the time and space for it, do it. And use your privilege for good, right? So the reason why I want to talk about boundaries and just to kind of talk a little bit about like how they come into play and how they can be really useful in switching from like sympathetic to parasympathetic. This is not about ignoring the world, right? This is not about ignoring what's happening in the world. It's about taking ownership for the things that you can control. There's a lot of things in the world that you can't control, but there's a lot of things that you can. And that is what this is about. So you are more useful for everything in your life and the world. And so the first thing that I want to say is, like, if you're somebody who wakes up right away, and this was me at first, like I've had boundaries with my phone for years. And like when this happened, it like went out the fucking window, right? Like I woke up in the morning, I was checking my phone right away. I was diving straight into like really like just media that I don't even know if it's true, right? Like it was distracting me so much from what I believe is true, and what I like really, really feel in my heart is something that I want to be a part of, and towards of contributing to a new earth, the things that I want to focus on, that I wasn't even able to find that. So the first thing that I would really suggest to you, and you may know or may not, but like when you wake up in the morning, that is when you're setting the tone for your day. That is when you can already switch your system into going into parasympathetic nervous system, which is relaxing and restful and easeful and open to learning and listening and receptive and not being so defensive, right? Like if you read this list, a lot of what can happen, like, I mean, look at the things in the sympathetic. Like this is something pretty cool. Like when you eat healthy, if your nervous system is in like freak out mode and high stress mode, you cannot absorb the nutrients from the healthy food that you're eating as much. I don't know if you knew that, but it's true. Like that's science. It's not me saying it. That's a fact. So there's a lot of things that affect that. And that's an example of like, yeah, not looking at your phone right away, like doing what you need to do for you in the morning to tap into your own energy, to call in your energy back, to take ownership of the things that you can control. So when you go out into the world and share yourself with the world in whatever capacity that is, you feel grounded and you feel connected to a deeper purpose than just trying to fucking figure out how to be less stressed. Right? So that is the number one thing that I would say. And like a practice, you know, whether it's, if you have a deep spiritual practice or you're someone who's in the beginning phases of it, like I'm talking to both of you, or anywhere in between, you don't need to have a lot of time to do things for you in the morning. Like I know we all live different lives, and some people, you know, have to get up pretty early to go to work right away, or take care of their kids, right? Like those are real things that are of the highmost priority. So I understand that not everyone has an hour to like give to themselves. It can be 3 minutes. Hell, it could be 1 minute, right? For you to just close your eyes and get quiet without your phone nearby, close your eyes and actually take some deep breaths. Like have you ever actually allowed yourself to, I suggest breathing in and out of the nose, but to really expand fully, right? Like we talk about in yoga, it's like breathing into your side ribs, the back of your body, your belly, your pelvis, your shoulders, like everything. And to do that for 1 minute, and something that I really enjoy doing, and again, you don't have to be a spiritual person to do this, like if you're connected to God or Mother Nature or whatever that higher force is for you, to create a prayer, to create an intention, right? And that could be as simple as like, how do you want to feel in your day? How do you want your day to go? What are you asking God or Spirit or Mother Nature or your guides or angels to be there for you for? Is it support? Is it guidance? Do you need help with something? Like, know that you are so supported beyond just your efforts, right? Just beyond you waking up and not looking at your phone and having self-control. Beyond just you filling your body with nourishing foods and dancing and doing yoga or time in nature. Like all those things are so good for you, right? Like, okay, so let's dive into the next thing. And again, like if you have any questions or anything, you can type in the chat. I'll go in there in a little bit. But I want to talk about self-care and kind of like the deeper meaning of this, and really my mission for self-care. Because when you think of self-care, something that I think that pops up for people that I've heard from clients of mine is like kind of this like dreading like self-improvement. Sometimes in the personal development industry, that can really feel like, I don't know, self-care and like inner healing and stuff can feel pretty exhausting and overwhelming, which is maybe sometimes when people don't do it. They feel overwhelmed by it. They don't have the time. They don't have the energy. They don't know where to start. So I invite you to think of it in a deeper way that is beyond yourself. And if you read this, what I'm talking about is we all live with so much programming, and some of it is from your past, of things that you've experienced in your personal life, but a lot of it is like ancestral. It's generational. It's from your family and deeper, and from the time periods and generations that they've lived in, right? And the habits and the programming that they've adopted that have like weaved into our lives, because things are passed down. That's just how things work. And even though they were really useful at one point for people, that's why they use them, it does not mean that they're useful now, right? So you are not responsible. It's not your fault for the pain that maybe you felt in your life, or the suffering that you've gone through, or the trauma that you've experienced, but it is absolutely your responsibility to heal from it. Because you have, again, if you're on this call, you most likely are like me. Like, what a privilege it is to be able to have the space and the time. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, right? Just knowing that self-care is so much more than you. Like, and I want to say this at first too, like if you're in a place where you feel like you don't have an overflowing cup, right? Like you feel pretty exhausted right now. You feel depressed. Like depression is a huge part of my story. I'll go a little bit into it later, but you feel like you actually can't even get up out of your bed.
Well, the first time I was on the phone with my boss, so.
Hold on, let me go ahead and mute. Angie, I love you. I'm muting you. Okay, sorry guys. Let's go back. If this is resonating with you guys, say fuck yes in the chat. If you don't like saying fuck, you could just say yes, but awesome. Okay, so knowing that self-care is not just about you, but I want to go back. So if you're feeling like you are exhausted, you're depressed, you're anxious, like you feel like you have an empty cup, but you feel really like kind of in shame and guilt around like, well, I feel like I need to contribute something to the world because that's what I'm being told right now. And I'm being told that I need to serve and contribute to a cause and like know what that is. And I don't know how to figure that out because I feel really paralyzed and anxious and just like kind of scattered. What I encourage you to do, I get it. I've been there a lot of times, many years. Take care of yourself first. I promise that that is the biggest act of service that you can do for the world. And you'll know when you are ready to go into the world and share that with other people. Like I've had to do a lot of years of healing and self-care and self-love until I was to the point where like I was sharing it with other people and I didn't feel burnt out and exhausted. And you'll know because you'll feel lit up to share something like how I'm here with you guys today. You know, everyone's timeline is different. For me, it took maybe longer than I would have liked it to take, but that's okay. Like I'm honored to be here now and to share from a really like lit up place of offering and service. But if that is not where you're at, do not beat yourself up. Your biggest act of service to the world is self-love and taking care of yourself first. Okay, so let's move on. All right, so there's so many things that can affect stress, right? And feeling anxious and feeling ungrounded and unrooted and scattered and just like, I don't know what my purpose is. I don't know what my meaning of life is, all of that. And a lot of it has to do with your mind, but I also want to bring in another kind of bird's eye view into this, because so much of like, I'm not here to like talk shit on anything, but when you think about psychology, for example, psychology really kind of just touches on the mind, right? In terms of healing. And not to say like, I know so many friends that like go to therapy and I know it's really useful for people. I'm not here to talk down on it. Everyone needs something different, right? What I do may not necessarily work for you and vice versa. Like that is up to you to find your special sauce of what makes you feel whole. But I will say that there's so much more to it, which is what I teach is like a holistic approach, an integrative approach, a grounded approach to healing, which is affecting spiritual, mental, emotional, physical, all of it. So when you read this, and this is why I put this up here, if any of you follow Joe Dispenza, he's somebody that I've connected to for years and years because he talks a lot about like unconscious beliefs and programming and all of that. And like, yes, there's a lot of things that can affect like people's livelihoods and potential and opportunity in the world. But specifically right now, I'm talking about like the inner world. Okay. So like read it, about 95% of who we are is a set of unconscious beliefs. That is a shitload of a percentage, right? Like that is crazy. And knowing that it affects us, like, I want to say this, like, you're pure awareness, right? You are not your thoughts. You are not your habits. You are not your patterns. You are awareness that's observing those things, right? But I will say that your thoughts and the way that you talk to yourself, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you feel about yourself, your decisions, your life choices, your lifestyle affects your biology so much that it can manifest into illness and disease and feeling stuck and uncentered and ungrounded. So that's why I talk so deeply about the things that you can control, which is what this is about. Now, when you start to dive into like spiritual practices and healing and things like that, like, I want to just say that there's something that happens, right? Your mind grips, it holds on so tight, right? Like, I don't know if any of you have felt that, and maybe if you want to type in the chat, like, what is when you first like encountered, I'm guessing you're here because you in some capacity like are either on a healing journey or you're interested in doing that, or you've heard about it and you're like, I don't know what that is. It sounds kind of scary, but like, I'm here for it because I feel like I have some like stuck shit that I need to work through. Like, what has really been your experience in the story around healing, right? If you felt any blocks around it, why? And I encourage you to type in the chat, and I'd love to scroll through it afterwards and we can talk about it. But one thing that comes up when you are shifting into changing your biology is that your mind grips, right? And the reason that it does that is because your mind doesn't like change, right? The things that happened in your life, like the programming that you have and the unconscious beliefs that your system is clinging on to, at one time they were very useful for you, right? At one time they kept you safe. At one time they protected you. I'm going to use myself as an example. Some of you may know this, some of you don't if you are new to me as a human in your life, but when I was 6 years old, my mom passed away. At that point in my life, I shut down to the world. Like, I was 6 when it happened, shut down. When I became a teenager, I started like partying really heavily and abusing drugs and alcohol like really heavily to the point because I like did not want to feel, right? I did not want to feel the grief. I didn't really want to feel anything. Like, I didn't know how to process it. So I literally shut myself off to feeling anything. And eventually what happened, like, I was trying to keep myself safe, right? I was trying to protect myself, my system, from an experience that I had that was really painful because I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to use it as fuel at that time. I mean, what 6-year-old really does, right? And so in that space, like, once I became an adult, I started to realize that like all this numbing that I was doing and running away and shutting down from the world and from myself and my family and my friends and my truth and my essence, like, wasn't really serving me, right? And it wasn't really healing me. It wasn't helping me in terms of really processing that grief, right? So I started to really, like, again, awareness. But when I started to dive into a healing journey at the age of 20, which was 10 years ago, you better believe that my mind was like, what the fuck is going on, right? Like, you've been doing something for so long and now you just want to change things. Like, it just doesn't even make sense. So if that has happened to you and you can feel, like, I like to use the thing about a hamster on the wheel, right? Like, that is kind of the essence of what this is about. Like, you can't expect different results by doing the same thing over and over again, especially if by doing those things over and over again, it hasn't brought you healing. It hasn't brought you bliss. It hasn't brought you a peace of mind. It just has, if anything, has made you feel more stuck and more anxious and more ungrounded, right? And so how do you get off the wheel, right? How do we step off the wheel? It's probably a lot easier for hamsters. The hamsters like, just get off of it, right? But for humans, that's really hard for whatever reason, again, because your mind doesn't like change, right? So the first thing is awareness, right? You cannot expect change to happen for things that you're unconscious to. So know that your timeline is going to be unique to you. And I really encourage you not to judge yourself or like instill shame or guilt just because you are looking at somebody on social media and they're like so ahead of like where you want to be. Like, I'll have you know, like, what you see on social media, I love it. I use it as a tool, right? To me, it's like a massive platform for networking with the most magical humans on earth. But I will say that, like, you were only usually seeing people's aftermath, right? When they, like, the outcome of like all these years that they've like been swimming through the muck, and now they're on the other side and they feel more free, and then they want to like help you, right? Or share it with you, or share it with the world. Like, you're not really seeing, for the most part, the practice. So I encourage you, if you get in the place of comparison, because that is a constant place that I used to live in, it's okay. What will get you out of that is awareness. You can't shift, you can't see things differently, you can't take ownership for how you can do things differently without awareness. And awareness is a practice, kind of like meditation, right? When I close, like I've had a meditation practice for years, but like, you better believe when I close my eyes, like my mind, it's like a fucking ping pong ball, even to this day. Like, to me, like the concept of meditation, that it's like so blissful and I'm in heaven all the time and it's just like the easiest thing in the world, is not true. You know, like, it really is about awareness and guiding yourself back as many times as you need to step off of that fucking hamster wheel. As many times as you need to do that, do it with grace, do it with patience, do it with love and compassion for yourself, because you are a human. And we're supposed to be imperfect. We're not supposed to have everything figured out all the time. And by you having awareness of how things are affecting your life, and like you want something to change, but it hasn't changing, awareness, right, comes in. How can I shift this? Awareness gives you the power to see things differently so you can make a different choice, right? So you can feel, kind of go from an unempowered place to an empowered place. All right. Let me just make sure I'm on track here, right? Yeah, so the thing I want to say about, again, this is the power of the mind, right? It grips, it loves gripping. If you feel that way sometimes, where you can just feel like sometimes even like your shoulders feel really tense. Like, I invite you, again, awareness as much as you can, to just soften. Like, soften, tell yourself that, like, soften, take a couple deep breaths, right? Like, the more that you do that, I promise things will get better. I promise you'll feel movement. I promise it is fruitful. And, you know, I want to use myself again as an example of like depression. Like this, I'm not going to go really deep into it because that's not what this masterclass is about. But like, I spent almost 10 years in like the darkest phases of my life of going on and off of antidepressants, really, really high amounts of it, for a very long time, because I was very lost and confused and trying to numb myself and figure shit out because I'm a human. And the last couple years that I've really, really felt like I'm not on medication anymore, and that I felt just enlivened and vibrant in my life, it's also been, you know, there's been a lot of times where like I've still wanted to return to that state of like darkness and depression because it's comfy and it's cozy and I made a home there. So have patience for yourself. If that happens to you, like, and you're feeling pulled back, like, just awareness, softness, breathe, like, have patience and compassion for yourself. It's not going to happen overnight. It doesn't have to take 20 years, but it's not going to happen overnight. Mm-hmm. All right. So these are some questions. And if you have your journal, again, I'm going to send this to you afterwards in an email. So you don't have to write all these down. You can, if you want to right now, because I'll leave them up for a little bit, but just know that you're going to receive this. These are some questions to ask yourself if you're unsure if like patterns and emotions that you may be living in, if you're not sure if they're serving you or not, right? Because I know there's a lot, we're all on a different journey. We're all on a different timeline. And asking yourself really quality questions is not always easy. Like this is not like about it being easy, right? And we'll get to the part where like it can feel fun and flowy, but like, this is a deep commitment to yourself, of like falling in love with yourself, of dating yourself, kind of to that point where you're willing to ask yourself the hard questions to find answers that are going to help you heal and return yourself to feeling more whole, right? To remind you that you are whole and that you've never been without it. You just feel like you have. So these are some amazing questions to ask yourself in those moments, and just, you can journal, you can say them out loud. Something that's been really powerful for me in the past couple of years is like, I love journaling, but I actually really like going out in nature, even in my car. And if you watch my stories, sometimes you know that like my car is like a portal for some reason. I like get a lot of ideas when I'm driving and like downloads and stuff. And there's been times I've had to like pull over and stop and just cry because I've like a question has come in and I'm like answering it out loud. For me, like, you know, we are energy. Everything is energy, right? This glass, water, everything is energy. Everything holds a vibration. And you can feel like when you ask yourself these questions, sometimes like it's kind of like singing, right? When you talk out loud and you're able to like, is it serving my path and my journey for what I want in my life? And you actually answer that out loud into the field of the universe, I promise it's really healing and can actually, I think, shift things faster than sometimes journaling. At least that's the experience that I've had. And it may or may not be for you, but I invite you to just maybe try that. Like answer your own questions as if you're talking to a best friend. Okay? So we'll go through this. Again, I just want to make sure that I'm staying on track. Okay, cool. So healing is a lifestyle. I don't know why that is there, but it's all good. Healing as a lifestyle. I want to talk about this because again, it's when we don't do this, like sometimes I think when people think about healing, again, they're like overwhelmed. They don't want to do it. They think that like, I'm fine. Like I'm all good. Why do I need to heal from something? Right. And everyone has their own journey. I'm not here to like shove everyone needs to be on a healing path, but I do think that it is an essential one to return to your innermost state of your most authentic self. It reminds you of who you are, right? Before you were like stripped away from that because of programming and conditioning and pain and trauma that happened to you in your life. So, and a lot of what those do is like traumas and pain and emotional wounds, like they add density to you as a human, right? We've all experienced them in some way, shape, or form. It doesn't, some are like more massive than others, but that doesn't take away from the potency of that trauma that's literally living inside your body. So when I say that like healing is a lifestyle, like I really invite you kind of like thinking about preventative health in a way, right? Like a lot of people, especially in the United States, kind of have adopted this mentality that they're not going to take care of themselves or eat healthy until shit hits the fan and they have some horrible disease that they may not be able to recover from. Like, I do not invite you to do that. Like, take this as an invitation to take deeper care of yourself, everything from food to feeling more grounded and taking some space without your phone, like walking in nature, calling your people, like dancing, whatever it is, and make it a lifestyle, right? Like healing, holistic health, it's a lifestyle. It's not just something that you do when you get sick, or not just something that you do when like you feel anxious. Like, yes, there's tools that you can, it's like, again, I'll go back to the beginning. Like when I said, you know, like when shit does hit the fan, it's like you're putting your freaking power suit on, right? You have your tool belt on. It's like you already have all these tools that you've been building and receiving and all these resources that you've had for so long because you've been living it as a lifestyle, that it makes you feel that much more proactive and prepared to take care of yourself. And not like you're just like running around all frantic, like, I don't know what to do, because I literally haven't taken care of myself up until now, right? So I invite you to start now. And again, healing, I want to touch on this really importantly, and I'll be pretty repetitive about this, is like, being on a healing journey does not mean that anything is wrong with you. This is not your typical self-improvement like class, or even the offering that I'm going to share at the end that I'm so excited about is not your typical self-improvement offering or class, right? Because I truly believe that you don't have anything to fix. Like, you're not broken. You don't need to like help yourself in the way that making yourself feel like something's wrong with you. So you need to like, I don't want to even say get better at something, but like heal in order to feel whole, right? Like healing is reminding you that you have always been whole and that there's nothing wrong with you. And that you're just moving from feeling unempowered to a more empowered place, right? You're taking your power back. You're focusing on the things that you can control. So you don't feel so stripped from your roots, from your truth, from your true essence, your authentic self, right? So, cool. Let's move on. Okay, so we're going to get into some embodiment practices, and I'm going to explain them to you. And I invite you to do this and share it with me on social media or however we're connected. Like, share it with me. This is something that I did a really long time ago and didn't for a long time, and integrated it recently in my life because I've personally been going through a lot of personal growth and up leveling as new offerings come into my field. And I'm like, you know, the path of the entrepreneur, if anyone wants like a growth path, become an entrepreneur. It will give you that wholeheartedly, because that's what I'm on. And it's not always easy, but it's a super honoring place. I'm really grateful to be here because I get to serve and be with all of you wonderful humans. But this is really going to help you dive deeper and heal emotional wounds, right? And it's asking yourself why. Like, have you actually ever allowed yourself to go to the darkest, deepest depths of your emotions, of your wounds, of your trauma? I know that it can be triggering. I know that it can feel unsafe. I know that it can make you want to just cry for hours and hours and hours. I invite you to go there. Like, actually let yourself go there. Because when you do that, and again, I'll use myself as an example, but like for a long time, what I was dealing with was deep self-doubt, right? And insecurity. So I kept asking myself, I like sat in the trees one day recently and closed my eyes, invited spirit and God in to like be with me and support me, and asked myself why. Why do I feel such deep self-doubt? Like, where is this coming from? Truly, it's not that I've never asked myself that question before, but this was different, right? Because I'm different now. And you will need to ask yourself these deep questions in order to really feel like a more expanded, greater version of yourself. And it's a beautiful path, right? Again, nothing's wrong with you. You're taking your power back. You're returning to your true essence, your authentic self by doing this. So when you ask yourself why, I encourage you to ask yourself why again. Ask yourself why 20, 30 times until it takes you back. Like for me, it took me back to when I was like 4 years old, you know, which like kind of uprooted and started bringing memories to life that like, I don't know if I would have been able to reach if I just asked myself why one time. Okay, so sit with yourself and close your eyes and just know that it's okay to like feel emotions and honor your emotions. Like, I'm a really big believer in healing through feeling. And by doing that, you're going to be able to actually like continue. Okay, so you're asking yourself why, right? You're peeling back the layers. Why? Keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, going to the depths of the wounds. It's not going to feel comfortable. Hold yourself there. You are okay. You're not going to die by going to these places, you know, this inner landscape. Because what happens in that place, it's not that I was comfortable in that place, but I could feel movement. I could feel shifts, right? I could feel like vibration moving in my body, which is how you know that it's working. And it may ask of you to ask yourself why a lot of times. But what this does is it begins to expand your awareness of what's going on, what's holding you back, what's making you feel so disconnected and anxious and all the things. Because then you'll be able to discern what's actually truth and what is the truth that you know to your core is what you want to believe in and live from. Because a lot of times we live from bullshit stories that do not serve you, that are deep, deep, deep emotional wounds, that the only way that you're going to be able to get through to them and pour love on them and talk to them and accept them is by giving them attention and feeling them and going to those places, right? Like, this helps you like be reborn essentially as a greater expression of yourself. I really love the metaphor of the phoenix, right? Rising phoenix, rising from the ashes. And this doesn't mean that like self-doubt for me doesn't still come up, or fears don't come up, or anxiety doesn't come up, or points of depression doesn't come up. Like, you're a human. Invite the ups and downs. But what starts to happen when you do this and you have a more expanded awareness is that you're able to like say, hey, fear, hey, insecurity, hey, doubt, like, I see you because I've seen you before and I know you're here and it's real, but I'm going to put you in the trunk of the car, right? I'm going to put you in the back seat. Like, you don't get to be the driver of my life anymore. You don't get to have control. You can be there and I see you and I love you, but you don't get to be the driver of my life anymore, of the show. right? So I encourage you to do this practice. This is one of my, I'm going to say it, favorite embodiment practices. It's not easy, but it's powerful. So after you do something like this, because oftentimes I think sometimes the healing path can feel exhausting sometimes, and you're like, holy shit, another round, right? And it's okay, that's part of it. It's an honoring path. But when you are doing these types of things, what I encourage you to do is like, go do something for you that makes you feel like the beautiful human and soul that you are afterwards. One of my favorite things to do is to dance. If you follow me or know me well, you know I love dancing, I love music. It's what I usually put this like badass sparkle cloak on because it makes me feel like the beautiful human that I am. And I dance around to one of my favorite songs, and I remind myself that I'm okay, I'm safe, I'm whole. And you better believe that right away I felt that movement from doing this practice. And it starts to get better and better and better. Go ride your bike, take a walk in nature, go laugh, like go get a margarita. I don't care, like whatever your special sauce is in your medicine to return you to like the essence of a simple life. Healing can feel heavy sometimes. And the point of this is to not make you feel overwhelmed by it, but to actually make you feel empowered and excited to do it, knowing that like, you don't have to feel like it's so exhausting, right? You can go do something for yourself. You're actually, I want you to feel joy during these times, right? 2020 has been a lot for people, and it has been really chaotic, and it's been really sad, and it's really confusing, and it's not over, and it's not going to be for a long time. And I kind of feel like people like myself who maybe, you know, again, what a privilege it is to be able to have this time and space. And if you're like me, you probably feel the same. Maybe a little guilt, maybe a little shame around going to enjoy yourself, right? Like it's almost like we believe that because all this crazy shit is happening in the world, we're not deserving of happiness, which is bullshit. It's not true. You are so deserving of happiness. And actually by you doing that, you're not only spreading, it's not like you're ignoring the world, you're just also like spreading more love, right? This isn't like a light and love speech, but what I want to say is when you think about the people that are on like the front lines of all those riots and everything and the protests, you better believe that those people are doing it because they want to see more love and more unity and more compassion in the world. They're not doing it because they're like, even if they're angry, they're not doing it because they want to see more anger in the world, right? So give yourself permission to feel joy, to laugh, to do the things that make you feel like the beautiful human and soul that you are. This is a really pretty butterfly. I don't know why it's not loading, but that's okay. It's okay. Okay, so we'll dive into this, and then I want to close down and kind of see what's in the chat so we can interact with each other, and we'll have a little bit of a Q&A, and then I'll go a little bit deeper into something. So the last thing I want to talk about, this is actually, I might take this down because this is like, just not fun to look at. Hold on. The big like construction sign arrow. Okay. So I'm going to close the chat just right now so I don't get distracted. I want to talk about healing to manifest and what embodiment means to me. While I'm talking about this, I want you to type in the chat what your beliefs about manifestation are and how they are supposed to work, right? Like what is your beliefs around like manifesting things and how they work? And if you don't know, that's okay. But if you do have any sense of wanting to share anything around that, please feel free. Because I'm about to blow your mind, maybe, who knows, but so the thing I want to talk about is healing to manifest by actually feeling. Okay, so oftentimes what happens with manifestation is people are trying to think their way through it. The only reason why I know this so well about what I'm about to share is because I did this, right? And it wasn't working for me. And so I needed to try something else on to see if that would work for me better. Okay, so when I say that, what I'm really talking about is like thinking positive thoughts and just really, really focusing on what you want and visualizing it and focusing on the good, and the good is going to get better. And yes, like doing positive affirmations, writing things on the mirror, like things like that, right? Writing down what you want. So yes, I believe in that stuff wholeheartedly. I think it's really, really powerful stuff. And there's another part to it, because oftentimes what happens is when you do that, you're stacking all these like new beliefs and new affirmations on top of old conditionings and old programming that you have not looked at and loved and healed. So you're never going to fully feel that personal freedom that you want to feel. You're never going to feel light as you want to feel. And that is like what manifestation and this like magnetism of what it means to be a human comes from, like flow and feeling light and simplified as a human, right? Being like a holistically healthy human. So I want to talk about that because oftentimes what happens is like when we're manifesting something or we want to do this, and I talk about manifestation because a lot of times people that are feeling anxious and scattered and something are feeling held back, right, by something, right? Something's not happening in their life that they wish that they had. And oftentimes the energy of like craving and wanting something more and more and more can often turn into you feeling like you are not enough. Right? And without those things that you are craving and wanting, you're not whole and you're not going to be happy and you're not going to be fulfilled. Right? So I invite you to really feel into, it's kind of like we don't feel like we're deserving of those things almost because we're like craving them so much. We're like dog paddling kind of, right? And what I want to say is that it's because deep down you believe that you're not deserving of it. So you need to listen to that and look at that, especially if there's some things that you've like wanted. It's not that visions and desires are bad. Like you better believe I probably have a list as long as a Harry Potter book of things that I want to happen in my life, right? But I really believe that the really clear way that you're going to become a magnet to what you desire is by healing, by feeling, right? By really getting into those deep places of like mental, emotional, spiritual, like this integrative kind of holistic field of healing by clearing the muck. This is like a cleansing of your mind and your spirit and your soul in order to, one, not have any of those emotional wounds be so dense in your body that you feel more free, you feel lighter, you're releasing tension, you're softening, you're aware of the things that may be holding you back. Right? You're pouring love into these things that are so, so deep inside of you as wounds and programming that you actually start to shift into like celebrating other people. The reason why I talk about this is because I'm sure we've all been there. I still do it, right? We like look at people on Instagram or people in your life or whatever, and they have something that you want and you compare yourself. Right? And you feel like shit about yourself because you don't have it and you want it. And you start to like get really envious of this person. Right? And what happens when you can clear out all the muck in your life and in your emotional body? Trauma lives in the body. It's emotional. You got to move. You got to dance. You got to shift. You got to breathe. Okay? You have to do something besides just thinking your way to where you want to go. Because it's not the whole piece. And by doing this and you shifting, this is what happens. You shift into that place of like, all of a sudden you're looking on Instagram, and not like this happens. Like I definitely still compare myself. Okay. So like, don't think that I'm just like this perfect angelic human. It still happens, but I'm aware of it now. That I shift into a place of celebrating people, right? I see someone that has something that I desire and that I want. And I'm like, wow, like I'm really fucking proud of this person for showing me what's possible. That's a different energy than comparison. It's really different, right? So I invite you to, again, like, don't be afraid of this healing work. It's honorable. If you have the space, the time, do it. Like, it will help you so much in terms of shifting, because what happens is celebrating other people shifts your vibration. It makes you feel lighter. It releases density in your body, because so much of that comparison comes from us looking outside of ourselves. And that's always going to happen. We're humans. So if you can shift from looking outside of yourself, celebrating people, if it doesn't happen right away, just continue to practice it, continue cleansing your emotional body, your mental body, and everything like that. Because again, what that does is it shifts you more into a lighter vibration of what it means to be free and what it means to be a human. And therefore you become more of a magnet to the things that you desire, because you're open and you're receptive. and you're giving a message out to spirit, to God, to universe, that you are like, I respect and love myself so much that I'm going to look at all these wounds and pour love into them and celebrate other people, because there, by that, I'm all of a sudden starting to believe that I actually deserve what I desire. And that will end your like craving, this like dog paddling to like, I just want, I want, and feeling like you're not enough, because it's just not true. Okay, so healing is moving you back to your most authentic state of being. That is what this is all about. That is what this is doing. So you shift from an unempowered place to a more empowered place. Okay, so I want to, I'm going to go through the chat here for a second. All right. Fuck yes. This is so helpful. Yay. Yoga first thing. Awesome. Hey, Shannon. Meditations. Cacao. Yep. Yeah, so Laura said something about a breathing exercise. So I was going to kind of say this to the end, but something that you'll get in the email following this with this recording is also going to be one meditation and one breath work session for free. They're on my YouTube channel, and they're really helpful. And the reason why I'm not going into right now, we're also going to go over. So if you need to go, it's all good. Just tune into the recording. But I'm going to give you those things because they are for very different things, right? One of them is going to be for like if you're feeling depressed and low energy, and the other one is if you're feeling anxious, right? So they're going to serve you in different ways, and they're like 10 minutes each, so they're accessible no matter where you're at in the journey. Okay, so we have generational trauma. It's absolutely fascinating, definitely real. Yes, very real. And a lot of what that comes, like if any of you, like talking to your family, right? Because I know, like, I don't know if you've ever felt, you know, my dad, I love him to death. He's 76. A lot of the things that he believes, I do not agree with, right? But he's pretty stuck in his ways at this point in time. You know, he's 76 and I love him to death, and it's okay. We agree to disagree. And it's kind of, I've had to really just detach from wanting his approval to feel like I can expand in the world. Because your parents are in a different generation, right? So are your grandparents, your aunts and uncles, and it's not your responsibility to heal them. It is your responsibility to heal you. Okay, so the main block I run into is learning to depend on myself and not seek validation and motivation from other people. Yeah, that's a big one. It's a big one that like I have gone through in so many ways. And what I really, really encourage you to, what I would ask you, who wrote that, Chris, is I would ask yourself what your relationship is like to self-love. Because the more that you can do that a little bit every single day over time, it doesn't have to be this like big scary thing that you're like, fuck self-love, but like, you know, like just look in the mirror and like actually look at yourself in the eyes and tell yourself that like, I love you, you are enough, you are safe, you are whole, you are absolutely deserving of everything you desire, you know, like you have something to give in this world, like you have a magical essence about you. Like talk yourself up, talk to yourself like you talk to your best friend, like you talk to your partner. It's so easy sometimes to give compliments to other people, but we don't give that to ourselves, right? Like how quick are you to do that for other people and slow to do it for yourself? Do it a little bit every single day, and I promise it will get better. It doesn't have to feel like a heavy weight. It can just feel like a little bit. Something else that I do that might be helpful is like, if any of you are familiar with emotional freedom technique tapping, there's a lot of things on YouTube, right? If you tap, we have meridians in the body, energetic meridians that can really help you start to shift. So I like to do it on my heart space, especially if you're feeling some stuckness around like validation from other people. Right? In order to make yourself feel whole, and tapping and like telling yourself exactly what you want to hear from other people to yourself. And that tapping, it like opens up your heart channel, which is going to make it more, you're going to be more receptive to what God and the universe wants to literally drop into your heart to remind you that you're whole and that you're enough. And again, like if any of this stuff is like activating you, you feel some sort of way, like you really resonate with me, know that like the offering that I'll share here in 10 minutes or so might be for you. And if you're interested, like, let's talk, let's have a conversation about it. That's what I'm here for. And we'll dive like, you know, a lot deeper into those things because it's a longer offering. Okay, so where am I? Yeah, shame for sure. Shame, shame, shame. Shame doesn't do anyone good. Right? It's not helping also, like, it's not helping your medicine of what you want to give, right? It's always gonna make you feel more paralyzed, you know, and sometimes beating ourselves up is the path to realization that we are just not going to do that anymore. And that's okay. Like, I don't wish that upon anybody for you to hit rock bottom, but sometimes that needs to happen, right? And it's the same for everyone. Again, I don't wish that on people, but sometimes you have to like feel something really shitty in order to realize and have the awareness that that is not how you're going to live anymore. And that you're like so much more worth to live a different way. Okay, so my spiritual journeys. Imposter syndrome. Oh yeah, you better believe that I've gone through that. Everyone does. With imposter syndrome, what I would really say is like, because when you ask yourself, like, you're like, who am I to share this gift, right? Like, so many other people are doing this. Who am I to share this? Who am I to offer this? Like, I used to live in the place of not believing that my voice mattered at all, right? And so what I would invite you to do, as many times as you may need to do this, right? It's like meditation, that fucking ping pong going back and forth, is asking yourself, like, who am I not to? Like, just invite yourself to just be like an exploration. It doesn't mean that you have to answer that question. You're just opening the space of awareness to invite a different answer into your reality. And the more that you do that, the more that you will start to actually find confidence. The only reason why I am the way that I am today is because of these things and actually just doing, like taking action. You're never gonna know like whose life that you could possibly change by sitting on your ass and not doing anything and feeling paralyzed, right? And if you do feel like that, it's okay. Like, love yourself where you're at. Drop the shame, drop the guilt, don't beat yourself up. And if you do, again, it's okay. Like, just know that every single moment is a new opportunity for you to ask yourself, like, what if? What if what I have to offer, what if by me taking ownership of healing my emotional wounds and just being on that path and knowing that it's a journey, it's not about like getting to a certain point and then you're like, wow, I'm fucking enlightened and healed from everything and I'm just perfect and nothing's ever gonna enter my field anymore, right? But really inviting yourself to just ask yourself, like, what if the medicine that I have to my core that I do feel a desire to share with people, if that is a desire of yours, what if that could help one person in the world? You know, it's very normal to measure our worth and our confidence on numbers, especially with social media. It's okay if you get involved in that, but like, I really encourage you to shift back into who you are to your core and ask yourself, like, what if? What if what I did today could change one person's life? You know, what if like what I did today, like I'm sharing so much from a place of like, I really don't even care if I ever get paid for this. I just like have a deep desire to share because I know that this has helped me. And if it has helped you feel better and heal from things that have made you feel unempowered, you better believe it's going to help somebody else. And there are going to be people in the world that, you know, I'm like, if we're promoting similar things or sharing similar medicine, there's going to be people in the world that listen to me and they hear what I'm saying, but it's not getting through to them. Like, right? Like, it's not really resonating with them. It's not medicine to them, even though they can hear me. But by you, who said this? Allison, I love you. So I'm just going to say this straight to your face. There are people in the world that need your medicine. And when you speak and share your offerings, they need you. They don't need me. They're going to be able to absorb that information and absorb that medicine only from you. not from someone else, not from me, not from anyone else on this screen, but from you. And just continue to ask yourself, like, what if like me sharing this in the world could go better than I could ever imagine? Like, what is the best case scenario? The mind really wants to like kind of play in the negative world, and it's okay, awareness, right? But just ask yourself those questions and see what shifts from it. Yeah, manifestation, blah, 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 blah. Cool. Awesome. So that is, what I have for you guys. And I want to kind of shift for a minute. And again, we went over a little bit, so it's all good. If you're here, then amazing. And if you need to hop off and watch the recording, then that's okay too. I hope this was helpful and supportive for you in ways that you don't even need to understand, but hopefully you can just feel it, right? And that you feel a little bit more empowered and sense of connecting to yourself and kind of excited to fall deeply more in love from yourself, not from a self-absorbed place, but from a very in service place. And I really, really am so excited to announce this. So I'm going to go back to this page that page isn't super pretty, but let's go back here. Okay. So this whole masterclass, like, my goal is always, I want to like share with people no matter what, like, now that I've done a lot of work, like on myself, like it really is truly an honor to be here and share these teachings and tools and practices for people. So if you, again, felt some sort of way on this call, you want to dive deeper into this work, you want to have accountability, like I can't even tell you what accountability from coaches and teachers and guides has done for me. It has reminded me that I'm whole and enough, and it has raised my confidence. It has empowered me to be where I am today. I would not be here without it, without that accountability, because it holds your ass to the fire in a really inspiring way, right? And we all need help. We all need each other. You don't have to do this alone. So I really am so excited and honored to offer this new offering, which is called Attune. It is your journey to personal transformation. It's a 5-week group coaching program for radical self-love and acceptance. And really, like, this is for the person. Yeah, go to the next page. Like, who is this for? This is for the type of human. I want to open this up to men and women and everyone, because I feel really called to just help humans and souls. So if anything I say resonates with you and you feel like you could really benefit from being in like a sacred container, because what that does when you say yes to investing into yourself, and I made the price point for this like very accessible. And for those of you who are on this mastermind call, know that you are going to get a lower price than anybody else, right? Like that is really my gift to you, is just those couple meditations that I'll add into this recording afterwards. And also just giving you an exclusive offer of a lower price than anyone is going to pay, right? Like you're my VIP people. And I really want you to feel like if this is something that you are interested in, that it's accessible to you no matter what. And so depending on if you're like on a beginning kind of healing journey, spiritual journey, or in the middle of it, or like you've been doing it for a long time, or wherever you're at, like this is welcome for you, because we're all on different timelines. And I really love holding space for people that are on those different places. So this is really for the human that's like ready to heal holistically and embody. Like embodiment to me means that like you don't have to explain yourself to anyone. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone. You're literally living from a place of unwavering self-confidence because you believe in yourself so wholeheartedly, and that you believe that what you have to offer is of service to the highest good. That is what this is about. And I'm going to help you get there. Okay, so again, you can read through this. Human that's ready to deepen their relationship to self-love, the one that's hungry for change, is ready to commit to feeling a deep sense of personal empowerment, right? The human that's ready to return home to their authentic self, take ownership for their life and the things that you can control, right? Believing that your medicine is needed in the world to actually heal from deep emotional wounds in a brand new way that maybe you've never done before. Like if you've been doing some healing stuff for a while and you still feel pretty stuck and held back from deep emotional wounds, this is for you, right? Because I promise, like, if I'm not your person, that's all good. But like, there's some pretty potent shit in there that like has shifted me in a lot of ways that like I learned by doing and from teachers from the past 10 years of practicing and integrating this stuff into my life. Okay, so if you're interested in this and you want to know more about like what the modules look like and all that like exciting stuff, then just send me a message on social media and we can have a conversation about it. I'll send you the landing page and you can learn more and we can go there or from there, right? So I want to kind of close everything with just like wrapping this up into a big bow and really just inviting you like to invite you to know that like you're human, you're still going to have ups and downs and it's okay, right? This is about feeling more holistically healthy overall than about needing to get to a destination and then you like are this perfect enlightened human that never deals with darkness, right? Because it's just not reality. I am a person who believes in healing by feeling, and that's what this is about. And you get to do it your way. What resonates with me might not resonate with you, and that's okay, right? This is about self-exploration, and if you're interested in diving deeper with me, that 5-week course, we're going to cover so much of this in such deep ways that is going to help you transform and believe in yourself in a way that maybe you've never even knew that you have the capacity for, right? Awesome. Let me make sure I didn't forget anything. Cool. Okay, so the last thing I want to do with you guys, and this may feel silly, but I am really all about embodiment stuff and moving energy with the body and with the breath. So I invite you to find a comfortable seat. And we're going to breathe just for 30 seconds or so. And what I want you to do on the exhale, so we're going to breathe in through the nose. And on your exhale, I want you to do like an audible exhale. I like to even like do a little shake face, like really feel like you're pushing things out of your body. Okay, so we'll do it together first. Just take a nice comfortable seat, sit up nice and tall, and just take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. And then we'll begin. So take a deep breath in through the nose, fill up. Audible exhale. If it feels really silly, it's okay. It's supposed to. And you can like shake your face too. That can help you like just shift some energy and get some stuff out. All right, we'll do it 2 more times. Deep breath in through the nose. Even shake your hands, audible exhale. 1 more time, deep breath in. Awesome. You can open your eyes. Thank you so much for everyone that's here. I appreciate you all so much. It truly is an honor to be in this space with you. If you have any other questions about what we talked about today, I'm an open book. Feel free to reach out to me. Look in your email for the recording and the meditations and breath work. And if you want to talk more with me about my upcoming offering, the 5-week coaching course, I'd be honored to talk to you about it. So let's have a conversation. But I love you all so much. Take care of yourselves. Drink lots of water. And I'll talk to you soon. Mwah.